tonight we've got a special treat, because rather than working with a straight tapered leg, I want to show you how to make the curved leg. So I want to transform this kind of chunky straight tapered leg into a more curved, pleasing one. If you just look over here at this table, what do you know? I have a coffee table here. And the first coffee tables I made with straight tapered legs like this. This one shows you what you can do, which is introducing a simple curve to your taper. And this is a fairly straightforward making of a pattern and then sawing out the curve. And you just have to start with thicker wood, because you can see this foot out here is actually beyond this point here. So we'll be starting with a thicker piece. Now let's come on back to the bench. We're actually starting with a piece as wide as 2 3/4 of an inch. So let's really push this curve on this 2 3/4 inch. Just for those making this table at home, I don't think anyone is, but 16.5 inches high is this particular leg. Now, here's my piece, and I want to create that tapered curved leg. So if you think of it, if we think of this area right here where the apron is joining in, the apron on that table is 3.5 inches high. So if we make a quick little tick mark here, if we come over to 3.5 inches high, and we'll be wanting our leg to be about 1.5 inches wide at that narrower point. So this is how wide we're going to be, and this is where our rail is coming in, okay? So we want to curve this leg outward to a foot landing out here. So here we are. We're about 1 inch in from the bottom. Let's make it 1 inch. Foot will come right there. So we want to connect this line, curve it up to this line, and then start at the outside of our template here and just make a curving line to meet in with this line. Let's just freehand this and see what happens. Well, not exactly freehand. I'm going to use some bendy sticks. That's the technical name. Get yourself some bendy sticks. Like these are 1/8 inch masonite, and you know, if you have one, they flex quite easily, and you can bend and get a nice kind of even tight curve. As you put more together, you get more rigidity to the curve, so it's easier to hold a flatter curve. So we want at least 2. I couldn't find my third, so I'm bringing in my sub off the bench, a piece of walnut. So here we go. I'm going to just bunch all 3 of those together and then give it a little bend. Feels pretty good. All right, so here we are. We want to connect these dots. I'm going to just hold this curve here on that mark and then curve it in and have this end just below my 3.5 inch apron. So right there looks pretty good. I'm going to get on there. Here we go. Now I'm going to start out on the bottom here. So I want my foot to land on the outside there. I'm going to curve it in to this 1.5 inch spot. So let's go with that. Right there.
Tony says it works great as long as you have molars. Yeah, that's true.
I'm glad you're watching, Tony.
Okay.
All right. I felt a little tinge. All right, so there we go. Check that out. Pretty nice, huh? Nice curve. Now this is really the strongest curve I would put on a shorter leg like this. But it makes the point. All right, so let's head over to the bandsaw. We're going to saw this out, and then we've got our ready-made template. All right, I'm happy with that, but it's a little rough. I'm just going to quickly clean it up in the vise. This, by the way, is 1/4 inch MDF. And I'm just going to skim it with a block plane, just keeping the nose down so I follow the curvature. And that'll do a beautiful job skinning off any high spots. There we are. Beautiful. Okay, now on the concave side, plane doesn't work so good. So well. So it doesn't get in there. So I'm going to use a spokeshave, hold it a bit at an angle for a little more planing action. And just feel, man, that's nice. Not many bumps. I was a little steadier tonight. I still have the 1/2 inch blade on there from our round chair class last week. Hope everybody survived that well and got home okay. That was quite a week. All right, there it is. The curved
Beautiful.
leg. So now I just need some wood to make a leg out of. And what do you know? I have a piece right here. So now normally, before cutting a leg like this onto a piece of wood, you want to cut your joinery first while it's square. So let's mark it out, and I'll pretend I cut the joinery. This is just a sample piece of pine I glued up. Usually I never glue up for thickness on a piece like this. It just looks too manufactured when you do that. So here I go. I'm just going to use my flat pencil and get a nice dark line there. You can use a pen as well. That gives you a nice smooth line. Okay, then I'm going to flip it on the other side, and I'll be sawing this from 2 dimensions to create that 3-dimensional leg. This is the same technique, whoops, that's used for Queen Anne legs, all kinds of things. So it's just a tapered leg with a curve. Now I've made this leg with a 2.5 inch curve, 2.5 inch block instead of a 2 3/4, and it does soften it a bit, but this will give you the maximum effect. Now, I would lay out, when I get to this point, I would lay out where my rail is coming in, and this rail is going to be about 3.5, as we mentioned. If I just made a quick guesstimate, here we are, 3.5. So I would be having a rail come into this space here. So I'd be putting a mortise in here. So I know with this piece, the rail actually is way out here, and I actually saw an angle into it, so it carries the same angle as the leg. So that mortise is actually right in this area, right here. And it stops about 5/8 down. So I go ahead and mark my mortises. See how neat I made that? And then this would be the top, and the bottom would be down here. And then we go ahead and we would mortise this leg. And now, we'll pretend we mortised it, okay? Now we're gonna go back to the bandsaw and saw out our three-dimensional shape. And let's see what we got. This will be better. Here we go. And to finish this cut, we have to tape our pieces we just sawed off so we can get that other curve cut in there. So let's get some masking tape. And I'm just going to quickly tape this right back in position, nice and flush, right where it was. Down here. And down the end.
Craig's asking, he says, I just built a 4-legged coat stand out of red oak. Is it a good idea to try this method of pillowing on such hard wood?
Sure, it's not too bad. Red oak's not too bad. When you're using, look at the episode from last time. You'll see using a spokeshave, a good sharp spokeshave, rasps, works great. I pillowed wenge, which is really hard, and you know, it takes a little bit more time, but you just need sharp tools and determination and you'll be there in no time. It's fun to try it. Just do a practice run. You know, if you've got some sample material around, give it a try before you commit to your big project. It's good to get some practice too, so that you don't get surprised on your finished project. All right, here we go. We're going to go back to the bandsaw and cut these curves. Okay, so we take all our pieces off and see what we got. And there it is, our beautiful curved leg.
Nice.
Isn't that cool?
There you
Three-dimensional, pretty strong curve, but that changes the game. I think I might have even a little bit stronger curve than our table over here. Now, to clean this up, I would use a similar method with the plane. Let me just show you that really quickly. Keep the nose down again, and I follow the contours. So we get rid of those marks. And this is white pine, so it's a joy to plane. Now I've got a little bump right there. Man, the round chair class got probably sick of hearing me say that. This is all you wanted to see now, right? And then I would do the same on this side and get a nice smooth curve. Why don't I just do that? This is such a big curve that it's hard to hold it in these clamps, as you may have noticed. I don't want to break the heel, but oh, that's so nice. All right. Beautiful. So then you have your flat surface, and this is where we would come in and make our center line, just like last time, and sweep up, and then make our side lines here to pillow to. So we would go ahead and pillow the same way as last time. If you missed that, go ahead and check out that other video if you're interested. But it's quite interesting, I think, to add that kind of surface texture, changes the game, gives you a modern, organic, brings it to life. Here's a leg that has a settled pillow. It maybe even be hard to see it in the camera, but if I hold a straight edge on this surface, can you see that?
Yes, I think
Can you see that?
hold it straight up. There you go.
Like that?
Yep.
So look at how much this rocks. And yet that surface looks almost flat, but that's how much it's pillowed. So just taking it out of the flat, you get that beautiful kind of soft light reflection. Your eye is going to read it differently. So let's take a look. Here's our leg. This is the actual leg, and you can see the mortise that gets cut in there before it's sawn to shape. And you're able to take a simple tapered leg concept, chunky as it is, and turn it into a much more dynamic, full of life kind of surface and shape, adding a curve and then the pillowing.
It's pretty.
Yeah, I love this table. So yeah, we have in the basement, we have one earlier that I made with just simple straight tapers, and then we got into this. Now, if you're into this, as I am, you might be interested in this class too. It sounds like I had this all planned, but I didn't. I got to do this class in a second.
The course?
A new course, and it's going to be on a bow front end table. And check this out. Now that you're an expert in curved and tapered legs, this one, same principle, same method, using a pattern, a template to make this soft curved shape, tapering in a, it just makes it jumps a shaker kind of tapered leg to a modern original piece. You know, it's like a custom made piece, and you can subtly affect these shapes however you like, customized to your liking. And then this one was also pillowed, of course. So this is the subject of our course, our new course, a bow front end table with a more modern spin like this.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So it's going to be solid legs and veneered sides. And then the drawer front will be solid or laminated to create the curves. And then the top is a whole other game. It's not going to have any straight sides. It will be bowed on all 4 sides, as this one is bowed on the back. So it adds a lot more life and interesting lines to a piece of furniture when you use that
You may
curved,
have answered
combining
this
with
question. Michelle is asking, is the apron flat with the surface of the leg, or is there a reveal?
Is the apron flat with the surface? Are we talking about the coffee table?
I think this table you're looking at right now. Yes.
It has a reveal.
Okay.
Whenever I'm pillowing a leg, I usually set a reveal. When you're dealing with flat legs, you know, flat surfaces, it was very common in the period furniture world that aprons would come in flush. So it's a little more work, not as forgiving. You have to make it flush after the joinery comes in, because rarely does it land flush. That's why most manufactured pieces always have an offset. It's 2 times consuming to make them flush. But making a flush joint with a pillowed surface, if you think about it, you've got this apron coming in at this angle, and this is pillowed. It's really better to set it back just a touch. I end up going about 1/16 of an inch on something like this. And on this coffee table, which also has a nice little 1/16 inch offset.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No.
All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, as I did. The world of curves and pillowed surfaces. It always adds visual interest to your work. Thanks again for being part of our lives here and part of this shop experience, for hanging out with us a little bit. Remember, if you like this content, please consider sharing, liking, and of course, subscribing. And head on over to epicwoodworking.com. Check out all the courses we have there, and especially if you want to get in on this course tonight. Be sure, if at least, get on the mailing list so you can hear about the new courses and opportunities as they come up. Thanks again for being part of this evening. We look forward to seeing you next time. On behalf of the cameraman and myself, we'll see you
Thank you.
then right back here on Shop Night Live. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Thanks so much.